As you heard, the meeting is being recorded, and I welcome all of you to the second district development session of our Rotary year. My name is Una Martone. I'm the district trainer with Rotary District 7390, and welcome you all to our district development session on the topic of membership. And I thank you all and want to extend just my deepest appreciation for you to take the time to come and learn more about Rotary. As a reminder, all of the district development sessions from last year, maybe most of them, and the one from last month, they live on our district website. So if you haven't visited the district website lately, please do, and you can catch up on the former district development sessions on a variety of topics. So tonight we have a really special guest, past District Governor Tom Gump and his District Governor-elect Lloyd Campbell are joining us from Minnesota. And I'll let you know that they were at ground zero of the murder of George Floyd. They were so close, I think Tom said 8 miles away from that location. And if you can imagine being in that location as a Rotarian last year, in the moment that we all experienced from afar, Tom and Lloyd were experiencing up close and personal, and their Rotary Club and their district, all the clubs in their district did some remarkable work on peace relations and race relations throughout their area. So I just wanted to call that out and just recognize Tom and Lloyd for their work in that area. I'm also going to call out just a few accomplishments during Tom's year as district governor, just to set the stage. I'm going to put his full biography in the bio in the chat room, so that I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a few notes to set the stage. First of all, in their district, they had 100% Paul Harris Fellows in their clubs. All of their clubs had 100% Paul Harris Fellows status, which, as you know, as hard as we've worked on that, is pretty amazing. They raised over $1.65 million for the Rotary Foundation, over $600,000 for End Polio Now. They started 5 new clubs during Tom's year as district governor, and they increased female membership throughout their district. And they created a peace forest with I think it was 85 trees. He's going to be modest, but I'm going to brag on him before we get started here. The coolest thing that I found with Tom, it's brand new. Rotary International started what they call the Membership Society Virtual Gallery. And there's only been 500 invitations extended to this gallery throughout all of Rotary International. And Tom received one of those invitations. The invitations were extended to people who personally sponsor 25 or more new members into Rotary. And Tom meets that criteria. So he is definitely an expert in the field of membership as it pertains to Rotary. And I hope that you will all join me in giving Tom a beautiful welcome and just giving him your attention and your engagement for this hour that we have together. Tom and Lloyd, thank you so much for joining us today. It's all yours.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And Una, you've always been one of my Rotary heroes. I mean, all the work that you've done as district trainer and as international assembly trainer, it's just your district is so lucky to have you. And thank you for having us here on this program. And we're pretty excited to be here because it's a great time to be in Rotary. And it's a great time to be working on Rotary membership. There's some things that are happening right now that we haven't tried before. And so we're pretty excited about it. So what Una wanted me to talk about are several different things. When I read about what she wanted me to focus on, it's really about what's new in Rotary when it comes to attraction, recruiting people in, engagement, keeping our current members engaged, and forming new clubs. And, I started thinking about what Una said, and I thought, she's got it all covered. She's got everything in Rotary membership covered. Because really, there's only 3 ways to grow Rotary if you think about it. What we can do is we could attract new members, we could retain or engage the members that we have now. I like the term engagement because it's more active. Because retention, of course, we have to do it, but it doesn't really grow. And then form new clubs. So I started thinking about this over the weekend. I was like, well, Una wants me to say what's new in these things. I was like, okay, well, I'll do that. I'll come up with what's new in all 3 of these areas. And it's great because so many people ask you to speak on certain things, and Una was able to look through the whole, memberships are #1 internal priority. Our #1 external is, polio, ending polio. But membership is so important, and we need to think about what's new. So we're going to talk about the new attraction strategies that are brand new, the new engagement strategies, and also the strategies to form new clubs. And that's how we're going to focus. And in that, we'll answer all of the questions that Una. So luckily for me, I was able to get the right questions from Una that made me think about the right things. So starting with new attraction strategies. So first, we have to figure out, why do people join Rotary? Because that's why we have to know that in order to bring more people in. So this is from a global study that was just conducted by Rotary International, and it breaks it down from Rotarians and Rotaractors. But people join because of community service and friendship. So we'll keep that in mind. What are they looking for also? They're looking for personal connections and networking. Rotaractors, who are usually younger and earlier on in their professional careers, are looking for personal growth and professional development. Luckily, Rotary can offer all these. And we're going to talk about the value proposition of what we need to sell when we're bringing people in. Now, this is important. The survey showed that 85% of all Rotarians joined because they were asked to join by someone that they know. So those personal connections, whether it be a Rotaractor or a Rotarian, those personal connections ask. We have to ask our friends, our family members, the people we work out with, the people we worship with, the people that are coworkers. And then, they want to feel welcome. And Bain and Company, a global consulting firm, just did a study, and they said this is why people join organizations, especially during a pandemic, is because they want to feel welcome. They want to feel part of it. Luckily for Rotary, 82% of our Rotarians feel that they are very welcome, and 77% of Rotaractors feel that way. So Una's right, you have to deliver a value proposition. If someone's going to take their time and money, they're going to want to make sure that they're spending their time and money in the right way. So when we recruit, we have to be aware of the value that we're adding, both for our potential members, for their personal lives and for their professional lives. So I want you to consider these things. If you think about why they join, consider doing these things in your clubs or the clubs you're starting. Have a variety of service projects, not just local, but global, because if we don't keep our folks engaged, they're going to leave. They want to be a part of something that's making the world a better place. We need to have fun social events. So even though we're all about business sometimes in our meetings, we have to have that balance of social events. Professional development, especially Rotaractors, they want to rub shoulders with people of significance in their profession, and Rotary can do that. And if there's one thing that we are, it's definitely a leadership development organization. I remember our new president, Shekhar Mehta, I heard him speak once, and he said he was very shy when he formed Rotary, and he had never been a president of an organization. But Rotary taught him and trained him how to do that, and now he's our international president. Mentoring, and this can go both ways. Our seasoned professionals can mentor our new, younger professionals, but also our veteran members can actually learn stuff, maybe computer skills and things, from the younger members. So two-way mentoring. Networking opportunities, that's very important. I loved when I joined my Rotary Club, I felt like I instantly doubled my friends in the city that I lived in. And family-friendly activities are important. If one of us are part of a family unit and we're spending a lot of time at Rotary, why not invite our partner, our spouse, our children? And we have to intentionally make our meetings more family-friendly. That'll bring in more members. So what's new? Membership has been going around for a long time, and you could look at North America's membership has kind of been going down for the last 10 years. And worldwide, we've been stagnant for the last no, 2 decades, almost 25 years now. So this is new. Each one bring one. And I love this. And the reason I love it is because it makes the responsibility of membership on everyone. And, I was speaking in India on Saturday with RI's international membership chair. And the question was asked to him, well, is it important that we have numbers or if we have quality? And I don't think it has to be an either or, because it's not Tom or Una going out and bringing in by ourselves 30 members. It's all of us bringing in one member. And if we all do that, we could bring in quality members because we have quality friends. And nothing's better than going to a Rotary meeting and seeing the smiling faces of your friends and having that number grow by each week. So Shaker Meta wants us to each one bring one. That'll be about 1.3 million people if we do that. So you're probably thinking, well, Tom, that's hard. I don't know if we can do that. You can. Look at this club, which is in India. On June 30th, they had 43 members. By July 3rd, they had 86 members. Everyone brought one member and they did it. So it can be done. It really does work. The other things that are happening new since July 1st is we have the membership society that Una talked about. So, and I'm just really proud of Rotary. I really believe Rotary is smart. And I think they're doing recognition at membership when we need it the most. I've heard throughout my Rotary career that, well, we have the Arch Clump Society that you have your name and picture of you and your partner etched in glass on a wall. Why can't we do that for membership, since that's our number one internal priority? Well, they've done it. If you bring in 25 to 29, you're a bronze member. Then they have next 25 is silver, then gold, and then platinum. There's some limitations. They have to be active members in your club when you hit the list. So if you refer members to another club, that won't count towards this. But I do believe, and I hear that Rotary's working on other ways to recognize our membership and the work you're doing in membership. And you can always start a satellite club that counts as membership to your club. So you can do a satellite club right under your club. So my wife brought in a member last week and she received this letter from Shaker Meta. Now it's an automated letter. It comes from RI Awards, but that's another thing they're doing. And you'll find out if you just emphasize this in your clubs. If you're president and you want to grow, put it as the first thing as your agenda when you have your board meetings. Before you review the minutes, before you start talking about finances and that thing, just talk about it. Recognize the people in your club that are bringing it in. Someone does something good in your club, also recognize who the sponsor was. We just have to think about it. We have to act on it. So those are the new things going on in recruitment. What about engagement? And I'm going to try to get through all of this in just 20 to 25 minutes because I really want to answer your questions, because I want you to leave tonight with the answers to the questions that you have, because that's what's most important to me, to make sure you have that. If we're spending an hour here, we might as well get you the information you need so you can actually internalize it and go out and do it. So when it comes to engagement strategies, that's keeping our members, retaining our members, we have to ask ourselves, well, why do they leave? Glenn, the global survey that was done by RI, we asked Rotarians and Rotaractors, why did they leave? It's pretty simple. It took too much time for some of them, it cost too much, or the value proposition that we were talking about, it wasn't meant. So we have to, when we promise something, we have to deliver it. And we'll talk about how we can do that later. Rotaractors is about the same. Some of them do age out because they feel there's no upper level now to how old you can be to be a Rotaractor. I'm actually in a Rotaract club in addition to my Rotary club, one that we formed last year for autism that Lloyd worked on really hard. So, the virtual meetings were really good and the hybrid meetings are really good to help us get through the pandemic. But what our Rotaractors and Rotarians are telling us is that if we just stay at virtual meetings, they're going to leave. They want to make sure that they have some interaction. So again, that engagement is so important. And whether we're engaging like we are tonight electronically on a digital platform, or if it's in person, we need to do that. They want to make sure that we have impact. So whatever we have to do to have impact, if you have a club and you want to add a certain aspect to that club, there's a club in the district to the east of us a few years ago, they had the Cultural Enthusiasts Club. Um, and they had worked their way down to 5 members and they were thinking about disbanding. And the president said, nope, we're going to do something different. What we're going to do is we're going to bring in some Rotech students. And so they brought in some Rotechs and the energy increased. They made their meetings more flexible. They did away with attendance. They recorded all their meetings so you can watch at a separate time. They made it very low key. They lowered the dues to a reasonable price. And now there are 25 members. So, you know, a lot of times when we talk about what the new clubs are doing, you can use those same techniques to reinvigorate or reimagine our current clubs. I got a thumbs up on that one, so that's good. um, Now the pandemic, some of them did say 9% of our Rotarians said, you know, we may leave because of the pandemic, and 11% of our Rotaractors. That doesn't mean they are going to leave. That's just what they're thinking about. Now, last year we didn't lose too many members. We only lost about 12,000, which isn't a lot for 1.2. But our goal is to make sure that we're attractive enough to bring in new people to reach out in our community and bring them in. You know, if we had a Rotary Club that was right for everybody, we'd have a lot more Rotarians. So the question is, to engage these people, we may have to change. And I know change is hard, because to change a club, and some of our clubs have been around for over 100 years, you have to change a culture. And to change culture means you have to change people. We all know that's hard to do, but there's certain things you can do to tweak your club to make it more attractive to people. So you might be saying, Tom, how do I know what to change? It's really easy. All you have to do is conduct a survey. And a survey doesn't have to be hard. You can go on My Rotary and you can Google health check, or you can Google survey and it'll give it to you. Um, and some people see that and say, Tom, it's too long. There's too many questions. There's too many Rotary acronyms. Well, you don't have to use theirs. You could take that. What we did in our district, we made it a little bit, we simplified it, and then we put it on SurveyMonkey and we sent it out. And you could do it to your club board. You can do it to your club members. But the important thing is to do it now. Don't wait until people are leaving Rotary, because Rotarians are very nice people. They might decide that, you know, not to be 100% honest with their answers because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But anyways, make it simple. Ask 5 questions. Just ask, do you like where we meet? Do you like when we meet? Do you like how we deliver our meetings? Do you like our socials? Do you like our meetings? That's just 5 things I just asked. That's easy. And you know, whenever we do live surveys, if this were a facilitation instead of a presentation, and I asked, please put in the chat box how many of you are satisfied with your Rotary Club, somewhat satisfied, neither satisfied or dissatisfied, somewhat dissatisfied or dissatisfied. We always get, and I don't care if this is Manila, if this is the Philippines, if it's Africa, if it's the UK, it's always about 5% that aren't happy. But when we dig down and we ask why you're not happy, it's really pretty simple. It's, I don't like getting up at 7:30 in the morning. I belong to a traditional club that meets at 7:30 at a country club. My wife would never have joined my club. She joined the noon club in our town because she doesn't like to wake up early. And, you know, she used to like to take our son to the bus stop too. So you can change these things. You know, we had a club in our district that, and I never give the name of a club if it did something that didn't work out well, but if it works out well, I give the name. So we had a good club named Egan, and they had young professionals. They wanted to go meet at a separate time. They didn't like the fixed cost meal. So they started meeting at a bar, and they grew, and the regular club grew because there was this cross-pollination, because people were telling them, yeah, I'm in this young professionals club, you could join here, but you could also meet in the morning at this other club. At that same time, in the city next door, that will not be named, we had a club that was meeting in the morning. Its membership was declining, like many of the clubs in many areas of the world. They decided they were going to change to noon. They changed to noon. They lost some people. A year later, they changed back. They lost more people. When all they really needed to do was just start up a satellite club. You only need 8 members to start a satellite club. And if you do that, they're still members of your club. They can still go to the fundraisers. It still counts towards your membership. They just meet at a separate time. It just makes it a little bit more flexible. So let's talk about this. We do the survey and we find out what they want to change. Well, it's pretty simple. What I'd like to do is just look at our traditional clubs, which are the backbone. We really care about our traditional clubs, and then look at the clubs that have started in the last 2 to 3 years and see how they're different, because they are growing different. The new clubs are more diverse. The new clubs have younger people. So let's talk about the difference in our standard club meetings, because let's talk about the time and the place. Most of our clubs, especially here in North America, we meet Monday through Friday, and mostly it's Tuesday through Thursday at breakfast and at lunch. And where do we meet? We meet at a country club mostly, or we meet at a hotel. What do the new clubs do? The new clubs meet at, you know, non-traditional places. They meet at places of worship that they can get for free. They meet at bars where they don't have to pay for a fixed price meal. Um, they meet at workplaces for corporate clubs. They do all these kind of different things. There's a club in England that started last year called Maidenham Bridge, and they bring their partners with them and they bring their children. And the Rotarians and the partners play bridge, and the kids, their children, play with each other, play games and stuff, and they meet in a coffee shop, first and third Sunday of the month. We can do that. Now, what about format? There's nothing in RI that says you have to have 4 business meetings. And that's what our traditional clubs do. They have 4 business meetings, one a week. Well, you can go to 2 meetings a week. Or what you can do is you could take those other 2 meetings and you could do something different with them. In my club, we have something called Rotary in the Workplace. We actually go to a Rotarian's business and we see what they do for a living. So a few months ago, we went to an airport that was owned by a nice lady in our club, and we flew them around our twin cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul. That's where we live. But if you have a breakfast meeting, make sure you bring the coffee. That's really important. The other thing is you can go to one of the organizations that you serve or give grants to. You can go to that local food shelf and you could unload the boxes and you could load the shelves up. You can still have a program, that kind of thing. But just think about the different formats that are available. And delivery, this is a great example of an alternate delivery style. You and I are engaging together over Zoom. During the pandemic, my club and a friend of mine was president of another club that both met in the morning. We decided to do a joint meeting, and we had the singer actress who was the voice of Siri, who lives in Australia, singing and playing the piano and guitar for us at 7 a.m. in the morning. It wasn't 7 a.m. for her, but for us. See, that's just a different way to deliver. And some clubs, what they're doing now is they're having 2 meetings a month in person and 2 meetings virtual, or you could have the hybrid. That's something to consider. So the other thing we want to tweak a little bit is different club models. And I want to go over a few of them just so you could be thinking of different things you could do. And again, you could take your current club and turn it into that type of club, and certain membership types that also add flexibility. Again, we're trying to engage our members, and we're doing that by being flexible because we saw the survey and they said, we want to change a few things. So all different kinds of club models, traditional, which is where most of us belong, corporate, cause-based, interest-based, international, alumni-based, Rotaract clubs, satellite clubs, passport clubs. What you don't see on this list is you don't see e-club. So we still have e-clubs, but Rotary International considers that as a delivery method and not a club model or a club type. And you could we formed several of these during the pandemic, and we actually, some of them have e-club in their name, but it's just not a particular club model. And of course, any of these can meet online or in person or through hybrid. So membership types. So we pay club dues, but where do those dues really go to? They go to the club, they go to the district, and they go to international. We don't really have much say as to what the international dues or what the district dues are, but you have a whole lot of say on what your clubs charge. So let's say that I own a business and I have several people working for me, and I'm a member of Rotary. But let's say I'm too busy to go once a week. I only can make it, every other week. I could have another member, let's say Lloyd works in my company, and he could come and the club could actually charge him less money, or maybe even charge just his food and a little bit extra. Um, we can do this with family members. We can do this with associate members. And a lot of clubs do it where someone wants to join Rotary, but they're not sure it's right for them. You could have them join as associate membership for a quarter or two to see if they like it at a discount rate. Again, you'd be discounting from the club dues, and maybe that's the way to do it. But again, RI only recognizes active and inactive and honorary. So when we talk about corporate memberships, and I can give you all kinds of forms that do it. And there's a friend of mine who's president of her club in New York. They have a very detailed family and corporate policies where you can charge one of three levels, and one allows you to be a full member and you can vote and you could be on the board of directors. The other one just allows you to do socials. The other one allows you to go to meetings. So you can be as creative as you want to. But the key is having flexibility so people want to join. You don't want them quitting because of a silly reason, like it costs a little bit too much or it takes up too much time. So new club formation. Una knows I get excited about this. And why? Because when you form a new club, it grows Rotary quicker. You know, when we just added our new club of the Network for Empowering Women, which is in this month's Rotary magazine, there's a great story on them on page 33 and 34. You know, we started that club with 55 members. For me to bring in 55 members into my club would take years if I was bringing in one at a time. But when you have a new Rotary club, they start with a minimum of 20. A new Rotaract club is a recommended 12. A new satellite club is 8. So when you grow in chunks, you grow quicker. It also retains members longer. You know, most people, when they leave Rotary, leave between the second and third year. Why do they not leave after that? Because you have your lifelong friendships that you develop and you wouldn't leave. Even if you change jobs, you would zoom in or you might go a little bit farther to come back for that. And also a lot of our new clubs are cause-based clubs. So they have a passion and that passion keeps them involved until, you know, they're working with similar people, similar minded, working on the same things. That passion with that cause keeps them involved until they form the lifelong friendships and then they never leave. Also, the new clubs attract younger and more diverse members. You know, in my club, traditional club, I love it. But our service projects might not be attractive to millennials. I mean, we pick up trash along the highway. We make sandwiches for the hungry. We rake yards. But sometimes millennials don't want to, I don't usually lead with, join our club, you can pick up trash. But we love it. But you know what millennials want is they want to have great impact and they want to have it in great air in one particular area. So like if it's end human trafficking, they want to work on that issue primarily and not a whole bunch of smaller issues. Um, so it's something to think about. They also reach out into our community. You know, we started the first ever Rotary Club to end human trafficking. And right after it started, the week after, then International President Mark Maloney, well, first of all, we inducted a new member from Turkey, and I was very excited about this because this was a country, it was an e-club, and we had members from all around the world, but we didn't have anyone from Turkey. And so about 10 minutes after that meeting, I get an email from President Maloney saying, Tom, that was my sister you just inducted. And so I went back, great. And he said that he's been trying to get her to join Rotary for 40 years, 40, but we just didn't have a club that was right for her. So if we had a club that was right for everybody, we would have millions of Rotarians, not just 1.2, but we'd have a lot more. So let's reach out into the community. And, you know, Rotary can be that magnet that brings other groups together for these causes. You know, when we started the first ever Veterans Club in the world in our district, our first president, he had tried to start a chamber of commerce for veterans, and it just didn't go. So he's excited about this. And he had 200 veterans that he knew from prior loans and current loans that he made because he's a lender. But if you think about it, Rotary gives you a starting base for a nonprofit, right? It gives you global grants and district grants. It's got a 117-year reputation, a good reputation. It's got a 5-star Charity Navigator rating. It's got 1.2 million Rotarians around the globe. So you can easily start something and do something. You put their cause first, and then eventually when they find out we're going to cure polio and that we helped start the UN, they become Rotarians just like us. But find a cause, make a club around it. It really works. And of course, those new clubs also work well when you have partnering up with other clubs that are working on the same cause. You have, you know, another database, you have more members, you know, things like that. So we want to add diversity, right? And why do we want to do that? Because if you have a diverse club, it's going to be more vibrant. You're going to have more ideas. You're not going to have everybody thinking the same way. You know, in our Veterans Club, we had usually the people who volunteer for the president and vice president, at least with our Veterans Club, they're always the people who are paratroopers, the people who've seen action, and they want to grow and they're mission oriented. And, you know, our president and vice president said, we're going to have 250 people in a year. We're going to we're going to be the biggest in the district and da 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 da. Well, the membership chairs, there were two of them, and they were both named Kathy. Um, two different people, not a split personality. One was in the Army and was in the Navy. So their nicknames were Kathy Army and Kathy Navy. Their idea was they wanted to make sure that the members we brought in fit into the culture and that they would stay with the club and that they fit well with everyone. So what was the right answer? Well, it was a combination of the two, but you don't get that diversity unless you get diverse individuals. So we added 80 female members last year, and they primarily came from three clubs. Our Eco Club is 52% female. Our End Human Trafficking Club, 61% female. Empowering Women, 69% female. So that's how we grew 2.25% in our overall membership because we started this. And when you go online to a new club, you can just tell it's diverse. It's the garb they wear, there's more color, there's more interest, there's more languages being spoken. So we may not have to, we've been fighting for years to add diversity and add um, more gender parity. The way to do it in my real life experience is start new clubs. Because again, you're not changing the culture, you're bringing in a new culture. So there's only three types of Rotary clubs. There's a Rotary club, and a satellite club. And there's all kinds of different kinds of club models. So I want to talk about just a few, and a few that you can start clubs easily or grow your current club with. Passport clubs are usually the first kind of club that a district starts if it hasn't started a club in the last 10 years. Why? It's easy to do. In Pennsylvania, are you in DACDB? Is that what you use? Club Runner? Okay, so you can go in Club Runner and you can print a list of everyone in the last 5 years, and you can just call them up and say, hey, this is Tom, we're starting a passport club. Why did you leave your other club? Well, it met at lunch and I work for a publicly traded firm and I can't be away when the stock market's open. Or you meet at 7:30 in the morning and I wanted to take my children to the bus stop. Well, our new passport club, you know what? Like most new clubs, it meets on a Tuesday and Wednesday or a Saturday. So they'll say, sign me up. And plus it's more flexible because in a passport club, you can go all around the world and virtually or in person and go visit those clubs, and that counts towards your attendance if you have attendance. Corporate memberships are great. Now, nobody wants to go to work early or stay at work late, but you can have a lunch Rotary meeting inside a corporation. I was somewhere in Pennsylvania. Oh, it was Yardley Morris. Is that in your district? Okay, I think that's in Stephanie Urchek's district. But anyways, they are trying to start a corporate club with a national home builder, Toll Brothers. And so what you can do is you could have the meetings during lunch. If it's a bank or something, you have to check the regulations because they might not want people coming in without clearance and that kind of thing. And then they do service projects on the weekend. You could do it with Fortune 500 companies, and the rest of the company, they don't have to be part of the Rotary Club, but it's sure great to have those people when you do service projects if you're cleaning up a river. So I guess you're not supposed to have favorites, like you're not supposed to have favorite exchange students, my wife always tells me, but we all do, I think. I do. And cause-based clubs are my favorite club. And why? Because there's nothing more motivational in the world than a cause. And people get fired up for this. Our most of our traditional Rotary clubs, people attend because they either work near where the club meets or they live near where the club meets. When you have a cause-based club, like our Veterans Club, there's people driving over 2 hours to come to a meeting and projects and things like that. So, I wish I was smart enough to have thought of starting an End Human Trafficking Club, but it didn't work that way. We had a tri-district initiative where we had someone who was interested in ending human trafficking in each of the clubs. And those individuals came to Lloyd and I. Lloyd was district membership chair up until this year. And they said, Tom, Lloyd, we're going to quit Rotary. I was like, what? How can you quit Rotary? And they said, you don't understand. My club may have one speaker on end human trafficking for the whole year. We might get one district grant. If that, we want to work on this more often. So we said, okay, start a new club. So Daryl Gerke, what do you think is the first thing they said when I said start a new club? What do you think their answer was? Sorry, Daryl, you're on mute.
I'm not hearing the response.
No, there he goes. Daryl, what do you think? What do you think she said when I said you should start a new club?
Are you crazy?
Somewhat. She said that's way too hard. And so, Linda, what do you think? Linda Spots, what do you think I said when she said it's way too hard? Oh, sorry, Linda, you're on mute.
Sorry. Not really. It's much easier.
That's right. That's right. And if you guys can remember one thing today, out of all things, you can do it. It's not hard. You know, when I started the first Veterans Club, I'm not even a veteran, and there's not an active or defunct military base. So just remember, if Gump could do it, you can do it too. It's not hard. You can get friends to start it. And so, but good audience participation. Thank you. So alumni-based
Can I
clubs.
quote you on that? If Gump can
Yes,
do it, you can do it too.
absolutely. It is so true, and it is so important for people to know that, because you think about it, Una, when we started that Vets Club less than 2 years ago, and now there's more than a dozen of them across the world. I'm helping one in South Africa start right now. The End Human Trafficking, we just started that just about 13 months ago, and now there's a dozen of those around the world. And eco clubs, there are about 15 of them. So seriously, it's not hard to do it. And I think, when you start your first club in your district, when's the last time in District 7390 that you guys started a new club?
I think the Passport Club would be the newest one, which was last year.
Mm-hmm. So then you're on a good start, because the first time you start a club, people are like, oh no, I don't think I want to do that. Because especially if you're talking to presidents and presidents-elect, they say, start new clubs. It's RI puts goals out for the Rotary coordinators, and they flow down to the RCs, and it's each one bring one, but it's also every district start 2 new clubs. So when I tell president-elects at PETS, start a new club, they always say, well, that's going to steal members from my district, from my club. I don't want to start a new club because you're going to be poaching members from my current club, and that'll make my membership numbers look bad. So I was really tired of hearing this. So I contacted Brian King at Rotary International, head of membership development. I said, Brian, can you just study clubs that have been formed in the last 5 years and tell me what percentage are new to Rotary? He found out that 88% were new to Rotary. And it could easily be seen that some of those 12% would have left. We were just talking about the human trafficking. If we didn't start that club, which was easy to do, they would have left Rotary, because we weren't giving them what they needed. And then some of the 12% probably stayed, that retention engagement, because we were giving them what they wanted. So alumni-based clubs, it's pretty easy to start a club if you take the easy way to do it. We started a Rotaract club for a sustainable environment, the first one in the world for a Rotaract club for the environment. And how did we start it? It was pretty simple. We went to SRAG, who's a sustainable group, and that's it's an action group. So they are coaching people on how to raise money and how to do projects. Well, we went to talk to them and said, do you have any young people who really want to actually do the work and not just advise? So they gave us a list of 120 people under 30. We contacted them. And you know what? We ended up having 25 members start this club. And this is the one that John Hugo mentioned in his closing remarks at last year's convention, not too long ago. They're from 20 different countries. And I'll tell you, they are our primary means of communications is WhatsApp, and then all our meetings are virtual, and it's just fun to do that. On April 23rd, we started a new club called the Rotary Club of Global Travelers. A friend of mine who was in my club here in Minneapolis moved to Florida, and she joined a club down there, and she had been international service chair here in our district, and she went down there, and her club that was near her house did a lot of local service projects, but no international. So she said, I'm going to quit Rotary. So I said, you need to start a club. And Daryl, what did she say when I said, you need to start a club? What did she say? You're on mute. And what did Paula say to me when I said, you should start a club?
Okay. It's too hard to do.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And then Linda, what did I say to her?
No, not really. It's
Exactly.
easy. And if I can do it, you can do it.
Right. And then she said, well, where do I find my members? And I said, Paula, and she has lots of friends. I said, Paula, do you have any friends? She said, yes, I have friends. I said, do you have any friends who were Rotarians? And she said, yes, I've been on a bunch of friendship exchanges. I've been on different things like that. And I said, Paula, you contact them. And then what I did was I contacted, because my wife and son and I, we've hosted youth exchange students. I went to my friends who, you know, sometimes they don't want to join your club because they say they're too busy, but they still want to do things like youth exchange. And then sometimes you get them, but sometimes they don't. So I went back to my friends whose children have gone off to college, and so they were no longer hosting. And I said, do you want to join a club? So Paula brought in her friends, Lloyd brought in his friends, I brought in my friends, and we had a club in no time. And there's actually a Peace Scholar from our district who's in that club. So it's not hard to find a club. You know, when we started the End Human Trafficking Club, you always get to 15 out of 20, and then it slows down a little bit, right? So when that was happening, I called Brian again. I said, Brian, do you know any staff at RI, Rotary International, that would like to join this club? So he put me in touch with a very nice lady who was in charge of the Rotary Action Groups, and she put me in touch with RAGIS, the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery. Two of their board members joined, and a third published a news letter article that I wrote. And so we got some members in Thailand out of that. So, you know, so often in our clubs, we try to bring in everyone we know, you know, each one bring one, but you don't have to rely on just yourself. You can bring in others. And if you get 5 or 6, especially someone who has got a spark for a cause, they can start the club. You just need to support them a little bit. So interest-based clubs, like a cause-based club, but it's more like an interest or a hobby. I have a friend of mine in Australia who just started a club for koala. So who doesn't love a koala? International clubs, you know, sometimes these evolve around certain languages. In Chicago, they have 2 Spanish-speaking clubs. It's good for expats. So now comes from my all-time favorite part of these events, and that's answering your questions, because I want you to leave with answers to the questions that you have. So please shout them out, and Una, if there's a bunch of the same type of questions in the chat, can you let me know?
I will help. Yes, I will help manage the questions. And
Thank you.
who would like to speak up and learn more from Tom? You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat or use the hand up feature.
But if we wanted to do that, this is Gary Lauer, do we have to go through the district, or what's the first step?
Are you talking about starting a cause-based club?
Yeah, if we wanted a cause-based, or like, let's say an international alumni, our club has had a lot of exchange students up until the last 2 years. If we wanted, just for example, if we wanted to start that type club, how do we go about doing that?
Good question, Gary. Tom, where do we start? And then we'll go to David Lockman for a question too.
Gary, thank you very much for asking that question. It's an excellent question. And that's the hard thing about talking for only 20 minutes. You can't go through all this, but I could come back in another day and talk about the steps you do to start a club. But really the most important thing is to find the right people and find that spark plug, that person who's got the passion to start that club. And, you know, I also do another session that's all the mistakes I've learned in starting new clubs. So you guys don't have to make the same mistakes that I made when I started. Because Gary, you know, when I started starting clubs, what I would do is I'd get 30 or 40 people in a big room together and say, okay, let's start a club. And what I found out is, you know, when you bring a lot of people together at once, they tend to focus on their differences instead of the similarities. So what I found out is if I just take a couple people to lunch and then I say, Gary, what do you think we should do at a club? When do you think we should meet? And I say, Lynn, where do you think we should meet? And then you start building a consensus, and then eventually you start having larger lunches. And then after a couple months, then you bring them all together, and then you can pick your officers and do things like that. But the other thing, Gary, is to involve as many people in the district as you can, because what I found out is it's such a great thing to start a club. And when I first started my first few clubs, I had to help with a few people, but I didn't involve enough people, because if you involve people, they get excited about it. So I could go to Juliet's club and say, Juliet, can you please buy a bell and a gavel, and then you can engrave the chart night. Then I can go to Linda and say, Linda, can you give us a pull-up banner? And Alan, can you get us name tags? And Ricardo, can you get us a name tag holder? And then you invite all of them to the chartering night, and they all feel like they're a part of it. And you know what? Everyone wants to start a club after that. The first one you get, oh, we don't need that. Tom, you don't need a veterans club. We already have veterans in our club. Well, it turns out that we really do. You just have to get them to believe it. And you guys are starting, you have all these examples now that we're talking about tonight. So you can tell in your district, oh yeah, Gump did it, so we can do it.
And Gary, we have resources in the district too. If you have people who are passionate about a cause and you really think that there's a club just waiting to happen, reach out to the district governor, Greg Staub, reach out to the membership chair, Kevin Engel, or reach out to anyone on the leadership team to get some further assistance. But if you've got the people, you've got the motivation, you've got the passion for it, there is definitely help on the part of the district.
Yeah, and Gary, I'm really glad you asked that question, because when you fill out the application, it always says, what is the sponsoring club? And you can put a name of a club, or you can put not applicable. But you know what? There's a way, in a very real way, that a district could get involved. And I think it's very important, because if you look at most districts around the world, where do the new clubs form? They always form in the oldest city from the oldest club, because they have the money and they're willing to, it takes about $1,500 to start a club. They're willing to put a little money in. So there's great clubs that can be started outside of Sioux Falls and the Black Hills. You could start an eco club, but if there's not money there, so I would do this. This is what we did in our district. We passed a pro-growth policy where we said that we will waive all district dues for any new club that starts for their first year in existence. So the club can charge whatever club dues they want, and you can't waive international or district dues. You could waive the district dues with the district vote on that. And why is that important? Because it shows that we have skin in the game. The veterans said to me, the first ones I talked to said, well, you just want us for our money. You just want us because we'll do projects. And so I wanted to prove to them that we were going to do something for them. So if you have this policy, and if the district dues are only 70, how much are your district dues a year? $50 to $70?
50 something.
Yep. So it's only $50, but you think about it, the DGE, when Juliet was putting together her budget for this year, she did it, Juliet, you probably did it based on the number of clubs in existence now, right? Yep, she did it based on that. So you bring in 5 new clubs, that's all future money coming to the district. And it's the best place you can make an investment, because that's future income. Like if I was going to build a building, I want to build manufacturing because it leads to the bottom line, not some fancy office with marble and things like that. So I'm really glad you asked that question, Gary.
Great response, Tom. And thanks, Gary. David Lockman, I saw your hand was up just a minute ago. It looks like you are safely, stable, and not driving in your car any longer.
I'm back in my office. Yes, thank you. A few questions. As you point out the fact that you can spend less money in our club, and hey, you have less time requirements, and hey, you have less attention. At what point do you get just hangers on in that process?
That's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked that question, because when you start a new club, we still have the 5 areas of service, but our experience has been more people left because they didn't have enough to do than people that are just hangers on. But if they're hangers on, if they're still contributing, if they're paying dues and they're contributing to TRF, I think it's a case by case basis and it depends on the facts, but we're putting out this value proposition that we talked about is we want you to get engaged. We want you to work on service projects. I don't know if someone's going to join if they know that there's those obligations, because it's not all obligations that are barriers to people staying. It's just the cost and it's just the meetings. They don't mind being engaged with service projects. I hope that answered your question, David.
Yes, thank you. And a non sequitur follow-up. The Human Trafficking Club, I over the last several years, just in hearing what happens various places, that the thought of that concept has become something I find I'd like to help with, but feel unempowered. Can you mention the name of that club and how to and whether it could be address, whether someone can not necessarily join but participate in a bit, for information, for transport of ideas. That the primary one, I don't even know what I'm asking. It's just it's heavy on my heart, and it's just something I think needs addressed.
Well, I'm really glad you said that. And the club is called the Rotary Club to End Human Trafficking, which sounds like an audacious goal because some people say it can never be ended, it can only be curbed. But the important thing when we start these clubs is to let them choose. But they actually have a hub and spoke model where they can help you do a satellite club in your district, actually do it in your district, and they can help you. They have all kinds of experts who can help you and do all that. So there is a friend of mine, Virginia McKenzie, who saw me on the telethon last year, and she saw this club. She's come to every meeting, even though she's a member of Seattle number 4 for the last year and a half, and now she's starting her own club in Seattle because as we all know, it's not hard to do, right? So so they can help you start a club there in 7390, and you can still be a hub and spoke to them and go to their virtual meetings and things like that.
I'm interested at this point of sitting at the feet of the master without having Mr. Miyagi teach me directly.
Wax on, wax off.
Tom, if I'm not mistaken, was your contact information in your bio? I shared the
Yes.
bio as a PDF earlier.
I think it was, but it's also on the last slide, which I didn't share, but I'll put it in the chat box.
Okay, that's great too. And we have 5 minutes left. So are there more questions? Oops, there goes my alarm to say we have 5 minutes left.
I see my friend Irene on the screen. Irene and I were bus buddies in Chicago and Itasca Zone Institute.
Nice. Thanks for joining us, Irene.
Una,
Yeah.
someone had posted in the chat and it was talking about starting or energizing Rotaract clubs, which I think is, well, I am actually interested in trying to figure out how to maybe spark our Interact club. It's quite robust at the high school, but I'm not sure they really understand how much they're connected to Rotary.
That's a great question, and I'm really glad you brought that up because if you think about it, it all starts with Interact, and if we can empower them, the same things we do in a Rotary club, we can do in a Rotaract club, and we can do in an Interact club. I remember we were doing a project in Honduras, and it was an $800,000 project. So I was gathering all the funds, and I went to a few Interact clubs, and I'll tell you what, it touches your heart when they go to a Chipotle at night and they raise $300 from making sandwiches and they put that in, and it makes them feel good. And there's no reason why. My son is in our Interact club, and he just loves it. It's a great way to meet people, and we need to do that. But again, you have to find that champion in the school that's going to be there for a while. The Rotaract clubs are a little bit easier because we could have a community base, or we could have a university base, but you still need that continuity. And we're lucky to be in Rotary because they have this great learning center, and there's a new module there called Nurturing a New Club. And it says that these clubs, Rotaract and Interact included, are 40% more likely to survive if they have a sponsor. Now, going back to what Gary was saying, that sponsor could be the district. And you can have, I don't know what your current DG or DGE has planned, but they can make Interact a priority. And you can start with your biggest clubs and say, we want a Rotaract club and we want an Interact club, because sometimes it just takes a suggestion, get that spark going.
And Tom, I want to play on one of the words you just used, which was having a champion. And I think that is more important, than anything, is to have the champion, because Tom, you have individually championed many things. You have mentored other champions and worked together with other champions, and you've clearly accomplished so much. Without that champion, without someone who's really dedicated to seeing a new club through, or to seeing a new membership campaign through, it can really be a struggle. And so for everyone on the call, look around in your clubs and see where those champions are. And for causes, you can even look outside of your club. See who's championing a cause out in your community, whether it's human trafficking. Look at your own YWCA. Who are the leaders at the YWCA where you live? And can you start talking to them and build some champions in partnership with local organizations that are already in that field? So identifying your champions from within your club and your champion partners outside of your club is critical to the success. And we have 2 minutes. Juliet, I think I saw your hand a minute ago, and I see David's hand is back up again. So Juliet, you're first, and then to David.
Okay, I mean, before I die, I want to start a hospital-based Rotary Club, because my whole life has been dedicated to nursing and hospitals and our, hospital and health systems in Pennsylvania. And so I've struck out with 2 local hospitals, and I'm on to my third one. Do you think it's more important to start developing a relationship instead of going straight to the ask to start a club, to facilitate that relationship that will lead to a club? Or how do you think I should go about it?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because it's a great question. Because if you think about it, sometimes when I say, we started a veterans club, people say, okay, I'm just going to get a group of people together. Hospital, I can get a group of teachers together. But it's not so much the group of people that you get together, it's the service you're performing. Because if you want to bring a bunch of teachers together, they're together all day long at school. But if it's for a cause like literacy, in our last global survey that we did in Rotary, literacy was one of a cause that a lot of people said, we want to do this. So if you can bring the service part first, everything else will follow.
Thanks, Tom. I want to be cognizant of our time. It is 7. And David, I know you had a hand up. So I think if we can wrap up officially, and then perhaps Tom will stay on for a quick follow-up with David, then we can meet our time, because I know everyone had 1 hour planned for this. And Tom, I just want to say how thankful I am and how grateful I am that you participated tonight. And you instantly said yes when I asked you if you would work with us. And that's such a Rotary way. And you are such a role model in Rotary, not only for your work in the area of membership, but in your spirit of Rotary. And I think I heard in this program that we might be able to ask you back for a follow-up presentation. And I would very much look forward to that. And thank you to Lloyd for joining in this evening as well. It was great to meet you, and I wish you all the best in your upcoming year as district governor. Thank you all for attending. There is no district development session in September. We'll meet back again in October. That's the formal part. If anyone wants to stay on while there's one final question, feel free to do so. Otherwise, take good care, and we'll see you soon. David, turn